Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum, Philip Kiszely. Well, you will join us on a very sad day, Philip.
Hi, Kev. Yeah, I know the area very well. I used to live in Crumpsall. My mother lives in Prestwich, which is just across the way from the park. I know the synagogue, so some of my best friends, two of my best friends got married there. Another one of my close friends was the best man at his best mate's wedding. This is just utterly appalling. And this is on the back, as just Richard has just said, and you've just said, the government recognising the Jew-hate fantasy state that is Palestine. But it's not just that. I've been thinking about what's been happening over this last few weeks, and I'm just appalled. You know, Keir Starmer's come out today and said he's shocked by it. Yeah, Jeremy Corbyn is shocked by it. Sultana is shocked by it. Really? They're the only people who are shocked by it. I'm not shocked by it at all. We all knew it was going to happen. We've had Gary Lineker sharing images of Jewish people being compared to rats. We had Dawn French, didn't we? You know, with her no meltdown, which was clearly anti-Israeli. We've had the BBC thinking it's okay to broadcast that lunatic at Glastonbury, chanting death, death to the IDF. We've got weekly hate marches, Kev. We've got the Your Party gaining traction very, very worryingly. We've got anti-Zionists marching through our education institutions and the civil service. We've got politicians turning a blind eye to Islamist nutters. 1 in 5 people being anti-Semitic. You know, this is terrible, terrible stuff. This is our country, the country that I used to be so proud of is grossly anti-Semitic. It's down to politicians, it's down to Islamists, it's down to the hard left, it's down to people turning a blind eye, and I'm just sick of it.
I'm sick of Starmer as well. He should hang his head in shame. Julia Hartley-Brewer said that this morning, and I echo what she said. Hang your head in shame, Starmer, because, as I said at the beginning of this show, if you reward terrorism, it promotes more terrorism. And what's happened here is, because of recognising Palestine, and indeed the government's ongoing clear pro-Palestine stance, its clear anti-Israel approach to the Middle Eastern crisis, because of that, the explosion, the revolting explosion of anti-Semitism that has bizarrely been going on since October the 7th, 2 years ago, when the first atrocity happened. That explosion of anti-Semitism has been emboldened by this government's policies. Make no mistake about it. And when critics say that Keir Starmer, in recognising Palestine, has blood on his hands today, it's hard to criticise him. I'll tell you what we'll do now, Philip. We'll go to break, and when we come back, we'll play Keir Starmer's weasel words. Andy Burnham, the Manchester mayor, proving that unlike Keir Starmer, he does at least speak human. We'll play both of those and continue to discuss this, and I'm going to play you something else. Given what you just said about the BBC, it's extraordinary. The BBC's first report, we'll play it, said that it was thought that this could be the work of the far right.
What can you say to this, Kev? Really, what can you say to this? You know, the BBC are essentially a Hamas propaganda channel. You know, and this is our national broadcaster. As I say before, I know we've got to go to break, but this is catastrophe. We are subject to this ridiculous anti-Semitic propaganda all the time, and Jewish people are terrified. They're terrified and angry. And as we see, you know, people are marching through the streets every week in London, Manchester.
Now they're doing it now. Pro-Palestine. Have they got no shame, these people? It is unbelievable. Look, Philip, we must go to break now. When we come back, I'll play you that BBC stuff. We'll listen to Starmer's weasel words. We'll listen to Andy Burnham actually responding with far greater aplomb than the Prime Minister, unsurprisingly. So lots still to come, folks. Stay tuned. Welcome back on this sad day where one Jewish worshipper is dead. 4 more are in hospital. attacked with a knife. 3 are in critical condition, and the security guard guarding the synagogue was also stabbed to death, was also killed. So that's 1 Jewish worshipper dead, 1 security guard dead, 4 more worshippers in hospital, 3 of them in critical condition, fighting for their lives. Let's hope the death toll doesn't get higher than this, but this, folks, is very, very serious. Now, I'm still with Philip Kiszely, the Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum. Before we go to the Prime Minister's weasel words and Andy Burnham's response, I want to play you this. This was earlier today, soon after the attack. This is our friends at the BBC. Now, you know, one should never jump to conclusions. One should never leap to declare something is true when you don't know it. But this was the BBC soon after the horror unfolded at the synagogue.
People on the hard right, the far right, are a bit divided on their attitude to the Jewish community these days in the UK. But certainly the Jewish community has felt that they were at risk from multiple directions, some from the sort of extremist Islamist direction, but also some from the kind of neo-Nazi elements on the far right. So it is both that are of concern, and as you say, at this stage we don't really.
It's welcome to that's the news from Planet BBC. Their first response is to start talking about, you know, was it the far right? Was it Nazi sympathisers? So on and so forth. A little mention just towards the end of that little segment. Oh, yeah, maybe it was Islamist terrorists. The BBC, I mean, they're part and parcel of the problem. They have stoked the fires of anti-Semitism without a shadow of a doubt.
Yes, I mean, this was what I was just saying before. They're absolutely part and parcel of the problem. They're central to it. As you say, this stuff is happening now. The BBC and our you know, the public service broadcasters will just not take any responsibility for what they've done. They will not report this responsibly and reasonably. It feels as though there's this thing happening all the time now, isn't it? When something like this happens, there's this thing called controlled spontaneity, where, you know, there are hashtags where immediately people blame this mythical far right. You know, they'll throw the word Islamist in there, but it's just as an afterthought. They won't mention the hard left. You know, we don't look back in anger. We have this rubbish poetry and all the rest of it. And Manchester's so resilient, and we just carry on. No, we don't carry on. We become incredibly angry because these marches, there's one happening in London at the moment, Kev.
Yeah,
there's one in Manchester. There's one happening in Manchester as well, okay? And they're shouting, globalise the Intifada. Now, you know, Prime Minister Keir Starmer, you know what that means, right? We know now what the result of that stuff is. What are you going to do about this, Prime Minister? What are you going to say? What's your strategy? What's your response? How are you going to stop Jews being slaughtered in the street like so much meat? How are you going to stop families being terrified? How are you going to stop synagogues being the target for terrorists? And it's not even synagogues. When I lived in Leeds, there was a Jewish bakery that had to have you know, security guards there. It's everywhere. When are you going to stop using the word anti-Zionist? Because what that means is anti-Semitic. When are you going to get your party, the government, to stop using these words genocide in Gaza? Because there is no genocide in Gaza. The only organisation responsible for deaths in Gaza is Hamas. And when people say that, that is incitement to violence towards Jews. All of this stuff is incitement. These lies are incitement to violence towards against Jews, and Starmer is doing nothing about it. It's shocking.
It really is. He, of course, cut short his jaunt to Copenhagen, where he was outlining his latest feeble measures to not really tackle the migrant crisis, more tinkering around the edges. So he flew back, hosted an emergency Cobra meeting, and this is his response, his statement not so long ago.
And while this is not a new hate, this is something Jews have always lived with, we must be clear. It is a hatred that is rising once again, and Britain must defeat it once again. On behalf of the nation, I want to offer my condolences to the families and victims affected. I want to thank the Greater Manchester Police, the first responders, and those dedicated security specialists. There is no doubt whatsoever that they have prevented an even greater tragedy, and we thank them for their bravery. But to every Jewish person in this country, I also want to say this. I know how much fear you will be holding inside of you. I really do. And so, on behalf of our country, I express my solidarity, but also my sadness that you still have to live with these fears.
I want to be sick. I really do. How dare he? Don't recognise Palestine. That might help Starmer. How about that? Here is the far more human response from the Manchester Mayor, Andy Burnham.
We understand this is a situation that probably is linked to the fact that it's Yom Kippur, a day of celebration for the Jewish community. Can only imagine how people are feeling when they hear this news, the fear that will bring. But let's counter that with some reassurance for people because of the speed with which this has been dealt with, and the fact that GMP were on site within minutes. Also, it seems, Mike, as though the security staff at the synagogue have really done an amazing thing and it seems intervened to keep a great deal of people safe. Let's not use this as a moment for speculation, as you said, Mike, for rumour and for division in communities. Every single person in Greater Manchester this morning should be standing with our Jewish community as they go through this experience, this trauma that they will be experiencing today.
Andy Burnham there, the Manchester Mayor. Now, as I said to you, the excellent campaign against anti-Semitism, which has been fighting a very brave and frankly difficult fight now since October the 7th, it's still extraordinary that the worst massacre of Jewish people since the Holocaust, 1,200 people, women, children, babies, slaughtered by those thugs from Hamas, women raped, babies put into ovens and cooked. It's still extraordinary that after that, what happened in Britain? There was a rise, an explosion of anti-Semitism. I still cannot get my head around that. Now, as I said, the campaign against anti-Semitism has held its council all day, and they've embargoed this until now, till 7:30. It is a statement from the chief executive of the campaign against anti-Semitism, Gideon Falter, a friend of this show, has appeared regularly. And I'm going to read it all, so bear with me, Philip. Today's attack was made inevitable by the radicalisation and Islamist extremism that have been allowed to spread by successive governments which have ignored every warning and done practically nothing to tackle it. Now the blood of British Jews cries out from the ground. Those who were murdered today were simply going to the synagogue to pray on the holiest day of the Jewish calendar. It has been a long time since British Jews had faith in our politicians, police and institutions. Their appeasement of extremists, especially those of the far left and radical Islamists, is what has made today's attack inevitable. The eyes of the Jewish people worldwide and decent Britons across the country now turn to Downing Street, not for thoughts and prayers or empty declarations that anti-Semitism has no place in Britain, but to hear what concrete, forceful measures will now be enacted. Today, the blood of British Jews is on the hands of virtue-signalling politicians who have poured fuel on the fire of extremism with their posturing and appeasement. Police forces and police chiefs who have failed to tackle the mobs on our streets. Universities and schools that have tolerated incitement. The BBC, whose bias and moral collapse has essentially turned them into spokespeople for Hamas, whom they still refuse to call terrorists, and regulators like the Charity Commission that has failed abjectly to address dangerous rhetoric at mosques. We need firm and urgent action on each of these fronts. Otherwise, it is inevitable that yet more innocents will be murdered on our streets. That's Gideon Falter, the Chief Executive of the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism. And I live near Golders Green, one of the big centres of Britain's Jewish community. Coming into work, helicopters everywhere. I got to the station, you could hardly get in. There were so many coppers there. So, you know, a tense atmosphere around Jewish communities everywhere in the country. And Jews have been saying that what happened today was an inevitability. The only thing they find surprising is it's taken quite so long. And they also say with the policies of this government, the appeasement of Hamas, the recognition of Palestine, the blatant anti-Israel approach to the Middle East, that these policies will lead to more atrocities like this on the streets of Britain. He's right, Mr. Falter, isn't he, Philip?
He is. It's a brilliant statement, and I, while you were just reading that out, Kev, and I agreed with every single word of it. I was thinking about what Starmer had said and what he'd said. You know, solidarity, condolences. As I said before, we don't want your solidarity. We don't want your condolences. We want you to do something about it. We want you to take your party and turn it round. How did we get to a situation where we have 1 in 5 people in this country are openly anti-Semitic? That is just a terrible indictment on our country, but also on this administration, the Starmer regime. So it's brilliant that the Campaign for Anti-Semitism are speaking out about this so strongly, and we all have to do this. It's down to everybody to really push back against this. We have to do this. We have to fight against this violence, which is underpins the rhetoric of the government. We'll probably talk about this later on, but it's just, you know, throwing words like racism around and just painting targets on the back of Jews, you know, calling them calling them Zionists, and this weaponization of this word Zionism is something that we really need to get to.
I'm a Zionist, aren't you?
Yes, absolutely. I'm a total Zionist.
Me too.
Yeah, and I'm proud to be a Zionist.
Me
so
too.
The weaponization of this you know, anti-Zionism is something that we really must push back on. This hard left Islamist, you know, it's not, you know, when they say anti-Zionist, they don't mean they mean anti-Semitic. They're anti-Semites. They're Jew haters, and we have to really push back against this.
I'll tell you something else, Philip. Sorry to interrupt. I'll tell you something else that we have to be careful about. I do respect some people who say this, but not everyone. It's almost like a kind of hackneyed cliche that the left like to troll out. It is this. Just because I criticise Israel, it doesn't mean that I'm anti-Semitic. It doesn't mean that I'm against Jews. Now, that little safety net that left-wingers, the Corbyns of this world, create for themselves, I think is a falsity. Yes. I know I live pretty near. Well, I live in a pretty strong Jewish community. I know a lot of Jewish people, and whenever they hear the phrase, "I'm not anti-Semitic, but I reserve the right to criticise Israel," they roll their eyes and they go, "Yeah, you are anti-Semitic. It's that little phrase that I think we have to look at as well. It's the sort of thing that Starmer would say. And to go back to this horrendous recognition of Palestine, he didn't need to do it. There was no need to do it. Why did he do it? He said because it's the moral thing to do. What? It's moral to reward what Hamas did on October the 7th, 2 years ago? I don't think so. Why did he do it? Partly because it's to play to the audience, to his fans. You know, that's a Labour thing to do. We recognise Palestine. But of course, mostly it's because he wants the Muslim vote. There are 4 million Muslims in this country, and he figured, as actually Muslim support was fading away from him, he figured if I recognise Palestine, the Muslim votes will come back to us. It's just sordid, to be honest with you. It's disgusting, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's about the Muslim bloc vote. It's also about the far left extremists in his party. It's both of those things. You've absolutely nailed that. But when people say this thing, oh well, I'm allowed to criticise Israel, it doesn't make me anti-Semitic. Well, what are you doing? Are you holding Israel to a unique standard? Yes, you are. Are you criticising other countries? No, you're not. Are you criticising Saudi Arabia? Are you pointing out that 500,000 people have been massacred? Christians have been massacred in Nigeria. No, you're not. You're not doing any of those things. You're just focusing on Gaza, and you're weaponizing. You're doing, if you're talking about, the only thing you're talking about is children dying, then you are also kind of alluding to blood libels as well. What about women and men? They count too, don't they? But no, you're talking about children, and you're drawing on these old tropes, and you're blaming the victims. You're blaming Jews.
Philip, I'm going to have to go to a break now because we've got 2 more to do before we get to 8 o'clock. We ran over a bit, but unsurprisingly. So stay where you are. We'll come back in a second. Welcome back. We're still with Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum, Philip Kiszely. Philip, let me just read a couple of messages. You've got them piling in, lots of phone calls. We will be talking to you a little bit later, folks. So keep the calls coming in. Obviously, there is much to discuss. This is Simon from Slough. He says, I'm disgusted by this attitude to our Jewish community. They are welcome here and they are lovely, clever people. I don't suppose they are all clever, but you know what I mean? They're the same as everybody else. Some of them are clever and some of them aren't, kind of Caucasians like me. I'm stupid, other people aren't. You know what I mean? That's the point. I live next to Jew. A lot of my neighbours are Jewish people, and I barely notice they're British. They're 65 years old. They were born here. To say they're Jewish, no, they're primarily British. But anyway, good point by Simon. He says, "I'm disgusted to this attitude to our Jewish community. They are welcome and lovely, clever people. The left are mad. I am married to a Sikh and have no racist bones in my body, but these terrorists need to be stopped." You're right, Simon, they certainly do. This is from Margaret in Birmingham. Thoughts and prayers to the Jewish community and the people of Manchester. Thinking of all the Jewish people in this country, Starmer should take a look in the mirror and see what is staring back. Well said, Margaret, absolutely. I'll tell you what's staring back at him. A Palestine appeaser. A Hamas appeaser. That statement he made, oh, I've got the right to safety of people, the poor Jewish people, and I'm like, shut up. Who do you think you're kidding? I shouldn't really be doing this as a broadcaster, but I'm just angry as a citizen of this country. Weasel words from this Prime Minister who literally lowered the drawbridge of terror when he announced that this country was going to recognise Palestine because it's the moral and right thing to do. Give me a break. Give me strength. Philip, well, we're getting lots and lots of text here, but again, this. Let me show you. This is the view from the left. You'll like this. Now, of course, Starmer, in fairness, he's married to a Jewish lady, and he's gone some way to curing some of the excessive anti-Semitism, the Corbyn-style anti-Semitism of the left-wing Labour Party of the past, but it's still there. It's still there. Now, Corbyn's little sidekick, Zara Sultana, I'm going to read you out two tweets from her. She doesn't tweet that much, so these ones came out sort of next to each other. 18 hours ago, Zara Sultana MP, expel the Israeli ambassador now! There you go. 5 hours ago, I am shocked and appalled by the attack on a synagogue in Manchester on the holiest day for the Jewish community. There you go, the hypocrisy of the far left, the Jew-hating far left for you, right there, eh?
Just it's gaslighting, it's trolling, it's hypocritical, as you say, and you know, it's playing mind games. This is the thing. Corbyn did exactly the same thing, you know, and if there are two people who've whipped up, you know, what they call anti-Zionist hatred in this country, my God, it's those two people, you know, and the rest of the Labour Party, and we have to keep coming back to Starmer, and we have to keep saying that he has done nothing meaningful about it. Yes, okay, the Labour Party is slightly better than when it was in special measures for anti-Semitism under Corbyn, but that's really not saying much at all, is it? You know, it's just a terrible situation, and this is our government, and this government has recognised terrorism. This government is on the side of terrorism, and as Israel quite rightly says, you know, Starmer is responsible for this wave of gross anti-Semitism that's actually happening now.
Yeah, and of course, the leader before him, the dreadful Jeremy Corbyn, I mean, he fanned the flames of anti-Semitism like there was no tomorrow, and of course always came out with that same old line, you know, I criticise Israel, I have nothing against the Jewish people. That guy, in his entire very long life, you know, he's been in politics now for something like, what is it, about 60 years or something. In his entire life, and particularly when he was challenging to be Prime Minister of this country, he has had one foreign policy. Get the Jews out of Israel, give it back to Palestine. That's been his only policy, his only foreign interest. One country, one place, anywhere. It's Palestine and Israel. Everywhere else in the world he couldn't give a damn about. It's an obsession with these people.
Yes, he's actually a very simple man. He's, you know, he doesn't really have that much of an intellect. It's just this one thing, and he probably hasn't changed. Most people develop intellectually and emotionally over the span of their lives. I think he's probably exactly the same as he was when he was 17. But the really terrible thing about this is that everybody in the institutions still worships him. You know, he took as I said before, he took the Labour Party into special measures for anti-Semitism, and yet certainly everybody that I know, and I know a lot of people still in the higher education sector, in the university sector, they worshipped him then, and they secretly worship him now. You know, Corbyn is their, you know, their cult leader in a way, and this is cultish. This is what it is. We've seen on campuses, in the civil service, in the media, it's a kind of cultish behaviour that follows people like Corbyn, Greta Thunberg, and all of these kinds of people, and that's what's wrong with what's happening today. That's what we need to tear apart. I'm so delighted that Richard Tice made that short video, and that Reform have come out so strongly on this, because they always do on the side of Jews. You know, they're so good. I'm so delighted that they're going to do that. I want them to take apart all of this nonsense. I just want them to come into government.
Well, I'll bring you more news about Richard Tice after the 8 o'clock news, when I'll be joined by Isabel Oakeshott, his partner, shall we say, but she's going to bring us news of Richard's recent trip. Only recently he spent 4 days in Israel, and she's got some very interesting news to tell us about Israel's attitude to Starmer and their attitude to reform. So the times they are a-changing. They really, really are. Need to go to break again now, Philip, and when we come back, we'll talk about the wider issue of the kind of incendiary rhetoric that Labour have been unleashing in the past few days, you know, accusing Nigel Farage effectively of being a racist, of Reform supporters of being racists, snake oil salesmen, immoral, all of this. This rhetoric, again, arguably, it leads to the sort of thing we saw today. And again, Labour and Keir Starmer should hang their heads in shame. We'll talk about how that dirty tricks campaign has backfired spectacularly for Labour. They're plummeting in the polls. Serves them right. That next, stay tuned. Welcome back. I'm still with Senior Fellow with the New Culture Forum, Philip Kiszely. Philip, let's quickly talk about the prelude to today's horror, which could easily be put towards some of the blame for what's happened. If you dial up the rhetoric, you dial up the potential for violence. And we know what Starmer and his craven crew, his craven cabinet crew have been doing for the past few days, way even before his speech at the Labour conference. He launched all this last weekend in media interviews saying, yes, I do think, he effectively said, I do think that Nigel Farage and Reform supporters are racist. He was careful to say, oh, it's their policies and all that, but he basically pointed the racism finger at Nigel Farage, Reform supporters, and millions of decent Brits around the country who actually want something done about the migrant crisis, which he doesn't seem to be either willing or capable of doing. Anyway, gutter trolling tactics, which hit the lowest point when that oaf David Lammy said that we know that Nigel Farage flirted with the Hitler Youth. What a disgraceful thing to say. As I keep saying, how could he flirt with the Hitler Youth? The Hitler Youth kind of took a bit of a perler, kind of went out of fashion a bit when Hitler died in 1945 and the Nazis lost the war. After that, the Hitler Youth were not much of a going concern. 19 years later, a certain Nigel Farage was born. How can he have flirted with the Hitler Youth? But clear, disgusting smear tactics. And obviously this is the work of a desperate party, a desperate Labour government that has got nothing positive to say about itself. So, like a cornered rat, it is attacking its enemy, hitting it below the belt, telling lies, spreading slurs, trying to demonise their opponents. They don't care about the Tories, it's just Reform. Anyway, a new poll has revealed, as expected, it's backfired. They're 5 points down ever since they started calling Reform racist. So, ha, they deserve it. Only got a minute left, Philip, but your thoughts?
All right, yeah, well, it's the politics of desperation, Kev, and it was really remarkable to listen to. I've never heard a prime minister speak like it before. I've never heard such desperation. But when people are desperate, they're often dangerous. They do dangerous things, and this is precisely what the prime minister is doing. He is, as I said before, he's painting a target on the back of everybody. Because if you are castigated as being racist, then that's the worst thing in the world, and anybody can do anything to you. That's what the hard left think.
Again, Philip, the Prime Minister, many people feel, has blood on his hands.